Five Nights at Freddy's, an everlasting franchise. I mean, serious, this franchise has had several installments, books, merch, a VR and AR, and some spin-off games, even an upcoming movie in the works. Within the release of Security Breach, the franchise has gotten more and more popular, especially with people adoring the father and son relationship of Gregory and Glamrock Freddy. It reminded me of a fan comic that did similar human and animatronic relationships. That's what we're talking about today. This is the rise and fall of Springtrap and Deliah. Before we actually talk about Springtrap and Deliah, I'm gonna give a quick rundown on who GraWolfQuinn is and how she ties to Springtrap and Deliah. GraWolfQuinn was a deviant artist that worked on many fan comics, such as Ask Sam, which was a fan comic where fans would ask questions towards a fictional serial killer. How to Fear Monsters, which is about the crying child getting along with the nightmare animatronics, and Ask Goldie Anything. Much like Ask Sam, fans would ask questions to Golden Freddy or any other animatronics. However, none of these comics were as hugely successful as this one. Springtrap and Deliah was a Five Nights at Freddy's fan comic. This comic was so popular that it ended up being dubbed by Sans Comic TV, one of the biggest comic dubbers in the comic dubbing community. So now you might be wanting to know, what is this comic about? This comic is about the life of Springtrap and Deliah. Everything is fine until Springtrap has a dark secret that he doesn't want to share to Deliah, or else their friendship will be ruined forever. Spoiler warnings, as I'm gonna be summarizing everything in Springtrap and Deliah as best as I can. This series has 3 acts. Act 1 starts with Deliah waking up from her bed from a nightmare. Soon, Springtrap shows up to give her cookies and tucks her back in bed. Soon the next morning, Deliah gets a phone call from her friend Harry. He comes over, Springtrap gets super sus of him, Harry gets super sus of Springtrap for the more obvious reason. Springtrap then tells Harry in private that he is a murderer and that if he goes near Deliah again, he'll kill him. That was his last mistake. Turns out Harry recorded that entire conversation. That kid is slick, I'll tell ya. And now Springtrap is going on the brink of insanity and starts hallucinating and seeing the ghosts of the 5 kids he murdered. Act 2 takes place a few weeks later, where Deliah is still having constant nightmares about Springtrap, and Springtrap, going ever more insane, decides to go to Harry's house and ask him for help. Harry gives Springtrap the advice to tell Deliah the truth by the end of the summer, or he will. Eventually, Harry's brother and mom find out about Springtrap and what he did. The next day, Springtrap and Deliah go over to Harry's house and play video games and hide and seek. Meanwhile, Harry's mom tells Deliah's dad about Springtrap. Deliah's dad tells Springtrap about this, and Springtrap threatens him and says that if he tells Deliah, he'll kill her and him. Act 3 then takes place near the end of summer. Deliah is forced to go to work with her dad, and Springtrap is being babysat by Harry. Afterwards, Springtrap decides to break into Harry's house and steal his phone. Harry finds out and suggests that Springtrap tells the truth before things get out of hand. This is where the story has 2 endings. In the light ending, Springtrap tells the truth to Deliah. Soon, Springtrap decides to stay at Harry's place and seek therapy, and presumably never see Deliah again. In the dark ending, however, Springtrap plans to kill Deliah, and this is where the dark ending cuts off. Afterwards, the series discontinued due to GraWolfQuinn's lack of interest. Many fans have pestered her to continue the series. Then someone was able to do that. Abience is a fan-made sequel made by Erdinoia, a deviant artist that has a much more lively art style, and was planning to make other comics as well, but that won't be happening, and I'll explain why. Abience means a tendency to withdraw from a stimulus object or situation, which does a good job of reflecting what this comic is about. This comic was so good that it ended up having a collaborated soundtrack with Sans Comic TV. It also implies that Sans Comic TV planned to dub the comic, but that won't end up being the case. It also has reached recognition from GraWolfQuinn herself, who approved the comic, made cover art for the comic, and has claimed it as non-canon. So, what is this comic about? It's a direct continuation from the dark ending, where Springtrap is on a police chase after he attempted to murder Deliah. Sadly, updates to this comic have stopped, and I'll tell you why later on in the video. January 4th, 2021 was an infamous day. On this day, GraWolfQuinn deactivated her DeviantArt. This left many of her comics and originals to be gone forever. If it weren't for the powers of the internet, of course. It was unknown why she did this, which left many to speculate that she deactivated due to mental health from people begging her to continue Springtrap and Deliah. Her Twitter account would later go on to be deleted. However, her YouTube channel is still around, but she hasn't uploaded anything in 3 years, and I doubt she ever will upload again. Remember how I just said how Abience was discontinued and how Erdinoia is unable to make her own comics? Well, this was sort of the reason. After the small success Abience received, Erdinoia was told by GraWolfQuinn herself to discontinue this comic. Whether this was before or after GraWolfQuinn's deactivation is unknown. Later on, Erdinoia would go on to deactivate. A few speculate that the reason behind this was the same as GraWolfQuinn, but it turned out to be the opposite. She deactivated over some serious issues that I rather not say, so I can keep things Springtrap and Deliah related. While Abience was peaking popularity, there was another fan comic that tried to compete with its popularity. It's called Fireflies. This comic was made by CandyCat69. Not much is known about this comic other than it's a direct continuation from the light ending. This comic would later go on to be discontinued under GraWolfQuinn's request. There's also another project in the works called Springtrap and Aurora Redemption. Not much is known about this project, other than it's a fanfic rather than a fan comic. It's a continuation from the light ending, and it has themes from Abience and features a new character. This fanfic is still in the works and got approval by GraWolfQuinn herself. And that wraps up everything I want to say. It's been a year since GraWolfQuinn deactivated her DeviantArt account. I doubt she'll ever come back on social media, and if she does, I doubt she ever will continue Springtrap and Deliah again. We just need to realize that all good things must come to an end. Let's not be upset that a project is ending. Let's be happy it is.